Blackberry Blossom. Good morning, everyone. This is Zach Henson with Confessions of a Mad Redneck, and today is something entitled The Tradition of the Alabama Loser. And I know everybody has got Roy Moore on the brain right now. He's become a national embarrassment. We have many national embarrassments in the state of Alabama, and it's a long-running tradition from George Wallace to Bull Connor to Oliver Robinson, Larry Langford, Robert Bentley. The list just goes on and on. And the interesting thing is that Roy Moore is just one of in the long-standing tradition of Alabama losers, and they all have a very similar profile. The most important thing is that everybody perceives them as some sort of populist who speaks for the people, and it's interesting because they are kind of that. They do, George Wallace and Bull Connor were definitely white nationalist populists, and Larry Langford was beloved and is beloved by the Birmingham community because of what he did accomplish as mayor and as a county commissioner. But the interesting thing is that because they are perceived to be from the people, they aren't held accountable, and they start to believe their own legend, because we treat these populist leaders as sort of legendary type figures in the state of Alabama. We revere them and we believe that they can do no wrong, and they start to believe it. And it leads them to do all sorts of crazy stuff, such as Larry Langford taking millions of dollars in bribes, and Oliver Robinson taking bribes, and Roy Moore believing he can not be held accountable for the stuff he did in his 30s. Robert Bentley believing he could sleep with his secretary as governor. And again, the list just goes on and on of just really stupid decisions. And I think one of the other things that's very interesting about this tradition of the Alabama loser is that this Alabama loser never understands the changing social conditions. George Wallace was segregation now, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Bull Connor couldn't see the writing on the wall when all of the people who used to support him abandoned him. And, Roy Moore, he can't see that the days of sexual assault and the days of prominent people not being held accountable for sexual assault and sexual harassment are, at least for now, starting to disappear, and I think that's a good thing. And the sort of quaint obliviousness of these Alabama losers to the changing times and the steadfast dedication to stick with what they've always done, even though it's obviously not going to work, is a long-standing tradition in the South. And for me, I don't see this as a black eye on the South or a black eye on Alabama or anything like that. I see it as part and parcel to what our politics are and what our politics will continue to be. And if you take a step back from it, it makes for a very interesting type of political discourse in the state of Alabama, and it makes for interesting politics. And I'm not a Roy Moore fan. I never was a Roy Moore fan, but I think he's an interesting figure, and I think he's something that should be studied, and we should understand why our culture, black and white, why Alabama culture, black and white, continually produces leaders that cannot be held accountable and that continue to do stuff that harms the people and harms the people of the state of Alabama, and to ask ourselves what it is about us that we can't find leaders who will actually lead. So it is November 14th, 2017. I'm talking to you from East Lake, Alabama, my home office. This is Confessions of a Mad Redneck. Zach Henson signing off. Peace, y'all.